Handcrafted in the Bay Area of California, Birdman Bats offer some of the finest, highest quality wood baseball bats and gloves in the world. Stand out this season on or off the diamond with our infinite options of customization at birdmanbats.com. Turn your visions into reality with our online bat and glove builder, and check out all the other gear we offer as well. All available at birdmanbats.com. Birdman Bats. Chirp, chirp.
Wag, play, bark. Wag Hotels offers fun-filled, supervised play for your pet in a safe and clean environment. Whether it's a day of doggy daycare or an overnight stay, Wag Hotels' welcoming and friendly staff is there 24/7, 365 days a year to care for your pet. Pamper your pet with the Wag Hotels spa and grooming services, training, one-on-one buddy time, and much more. Wag Hotels Wag Cam lets you check in on your pet anytime. Locations in Northern and Southern California. Visit waghotels.com for more information.
2 on, 2 out here. The pitch. He hits a high drive to left. Stowers back on the warning track at the wall. It's gone. Matos goes deep. A 3-run homer. And the hit that's been sorely missing for the Giants makes it 4-0 here in the 4th inning.
Bill is back.
Fired up, bringing it, all excited.
This is KNBR Extra Innings with Bill Laskey.
Sponsored by Lenardi's Markets of the Bay Area. Quite simply, the best.
Listen on your Google Home smart speaker by saying play KNBR.
Back on the Extra Inning post-game show on a Sunday, it's Bill Laskey, and Giants end up winning this third game of a 3-game series against the Miami Marlins, 4-2 in Miami. Record now 33-26, coming back to a 7-game homestand where they're playing the San Diego Padres for 4 and the Atlanta Braves for 3 before they go back on a road trip against Colorado and the Dodgers the second week of June. Giants played well today, good defense, and I really talked about Willie Adames making some great plays at shortstop. And the 9th inning was really the key double play that really put the fire out for the Giants. After Edwards got his 5th hit, he was 5 for 5 today. Sanchez hit a ground ball to Tyler Fitzgerald, and such a quick flip by Fitzgerald to Adames to get the speeding runner Sanchez with Adames cannon for an arm for a 4-6-3 double play ball, and it really took the momentum away from the Marlins. Lopez ends up getting a walk, and Camilo looked like the old Camilo. He balked him to second base, but he ended up getting Ramirez on a little dribbler out front, which he handled, and I think Patrick Bailey would have loved him for picking it up, but it ended up Duvall throwing a ball inside, and Casey Schmidt pulled it in for the final out of the game. And now the Giants go on a long flight home, but winning 2 series, beating the Nationals 2 out of 3, getting swept by Detroit for 3, and now in Miami taking 2 out of 3. So there was positives coming home, a good series win today, 6-3 in rubber games, and I think that's what they're going to get on this flight and think about, because this road trip, they could not score. In 8 games coming into this game today, they had only scored 14 runs. The opposition only scored 16. The pitching was that dynamic for the Giants. And today, a couple little hiccups from the bullpen, but they got through it. And Camilo Duvall ends up getting his 7th save. 415-808-KNBR if you want to get on the phone lines. Got a few people on board here. Let's go out to Walnut Creek and talk to Dennis. Dennis, you're on the Extra Inning postgame show with Bill Laskey. How's your Sunday going?
Hey, Bill, how you doing? My Sunday is going just fine. I got to tell you a little story. I was in the car this morning with the wife, and we were driving, and my wife says to me, "Oh, hey, it's June 1st." And I said, "Oh, yeah, June 1st. I finally figured it out. This is June 1st. We're out of May. the Giants had the June swoon in May, and now today starts June. So
well, you're close. You're close. They were 13. You know, Dennis, they were 13 and 14 in the month of May. When you look at what they did in April, 16 and 11. But when you look at these games, they were 7 and 7 in their last 14 games, including this game.
Yeah, well, I think they got some of this stuff behind them. I was talking to some people this morning about the Giants, and one person mentioned to me about the hitting coaches. I don't know, maybe they need a hitting coaches. I said, I'm going to talk to my friend Bill. These guys have been playing baseball a long time, and they always talk about baseball, game of adjustments and game of failure, whatnot. I get it. I've had those experiences in my life, but I think the players have got to step up and maybe do their own homework and look at video and whatever and figure out what's going on or change their approach. Maybe swing more at first pitches. I don't know. I mean,
you're right.
I'm not an expert.
And you know what? That could work, Dennis. That could work. I never want to fire a hitting coach or a pitching coach or bullpen coach when you got to look at the players and you got a 26-man staff. When you're looking at the roster of the Giants, and you can't tell me that all 26 of them are doing their job. The pitching, yes. The hitting, no. And somehow, some way, they got to get some energy in these bats. They got a tough month of June coming up here, especially this homestand. They play well at home, Dennis. They're 17-9 at Oracle with 4 games against the Padres, and now we're playing it against the NL West.
Well, I'm not so worried. Believe it or not, I don't worry that much. I think they're very competitive against the Padres. The problem is they've got the people, they've got the personnel, they've got a nice little step, little hop in their step. I know they're trying hard. Maybe they're trying too hard, but I just think these guys have got to start evaluating themselves and figure out what's going on. I mean, like we talked about before, managers don't pitch, they don't throw, they don't hit, whatever. They only put people in place to succeed. And I think the hitting coaches do the best they can, and the players have got to say, if I'm going to succeed in this business, I can't rely on somebody telling me what to do. I've got to do it. I've got to figure this out myself. I mean,
so right.
I'm the guy.
You're so right. And it is sometimes an individual game where you have to make the adjustments and you have to learn your mistakes, especially on the hitting side of it. When you look at this team, Dennis, they're 7 games over 500, playing very good baseball. But I think everybody, including myself, a little worried about the offense because the offense numbers have not executed many runs, timely hits. And you can look on this road trip, when you look at the first 8 games they played, they only scored 14 runs. When you look at the whole 9 games, they only scored 18 runs. So you're looking at 2 runs a game. And you still come out of it winning 4 out of the 9 games. So the good pitching definitely helped them on this road trip. Did I lose them? All right, we'll move on. Dennis, we'll move on. I think I lost you there, Dennis, but thanks for the call, and I appreciate your time out in Walnut Creek. And you just dissect it a little bit more, Giants fans. I think we're all looking for a 4-run game, a 5-run game, a 6-run game. They have not done that in a while, but you come out of this road trip winning 2 series. You get swept in Detroit, but you go in 2 out of 3 against Washington, 2 out of 3 against Miami. It is a positive. It is a positive for confidence coming back home. I just said it, 17-9 at Oracle Park, and I think that's the positive all Giant fans want, and a nice homestand for Giants fans to get out there wearing the orange and black and supporting this team. Tomorrow, Logan Webb takes the hill, Landon Roop on Tuesday, Kyle Harrison on Wednesday, and Robbie Ray comes back on Thursday. So all 4 starters have been announced, and we'll find out on what the Padres throw out there. They have not announced their probables. All right, let's go out to Oakland and talk to my little buddy, Jack. Jack, how are you today?
I'm good, Bill.
Good to have you come call me again. A good game. A couple little hiccups out of the bullpen. What'd you see coming out of the bullpen today?
Well, I saw a lot of walks, and they kind of gave up free base runners. I think this was just a hiccup, and they'll come back tomorrow. Hicks didn't look great, but his slider ended up doing pretty nice.
You know, when you look at Jordan Hicks, I think everybody's wondering, is he going to be able to fit in the bullpen? He throws so well, and I think sometimes he overthrows. I think more setting up in a target, trying to hit the target instead of just trying to throw 101, 100-mile-an-hour fastballs and cutters. And he got behind hitters, not even close, 2-0, 3-0 with walks. What did you see out of Jordan Hicks today?
I think he was just trying to overpower them, wasn't really going for location, and that's what I saw. But he gave up some free passes. In the end, Camilo did his job, and I think that the bullpen still did great because only one earned run, right? The 2 earned runs?
They got 2, but the one went to Hayden Birdsong. That's what happened on him. But, you know, when you look at overall numbers, they're the best in Major League Baseball. We compliment them, it seems, on every show because they're so consistent. When you look at Hayden Birdsong, you love talking about pitching with me. Hayden Birdsong, I thought threw the ball extremely well today. On his post-game remarks with NBC Bay Area, he said he got a little tired because he's not ready to get to that 70, 80 pitches. And today he threw 88 pitches. I think the strength will come eventually as he keeps extending into these later innings.
Yeah, this has only been his, 3rd or 4th start. So I think he's just adjusting from coming out of the bullpen to being a starter.
I think one of the biggest things is when you're looking at starting pitching, if you can give him 6 innings, that's a quality start under 3 runs. And Hayden Birdsong's that strong kid, 23 years old. And do you like him in a rotation now?
Like that, I feel like I want to talk about Rodriguez and how he could be a future closer once Camilo is a little bit wears out.
Well, let's go to the offensive side a little bit, Jack. Let's talk a little bit about the offense since we dove into pitching so much. Luis Matos getting that changeup 1-0. He didn't miss it today. That was a big 3-run home run for the Giants in that 4th inning.
Yeah, I'm happy for him. He's kind of been slumping all year. But
yeah, he's had money at bats. You know, he's only had 68 at bats coming into this game today. He was 10 for 68. Ended up having a nice 2-for-4 game with 3 RBIs. In his post-game remarks, he says it's just difficult coming in, not having a lot of at-bats, not coming day to day. And you know it, Jack, when you're not playing so much, it's difficult to hit those secondary pitches.
Yeah, I remember last May he was great, and I thought he was going to be really great, and then he just cooled off. I think with Jung-Hoo Lee being back, it's been tough for him to get as many at-bats as you said.
Yeah, I agree with you. So the Padres are coming in, the Braves are coming in. Tell me your outlook for this next 7 games when they come home to Oracle.
I just don't want to get swept. I think I want to win the series, of course, but if we split the series, I'd be more than happy for that.
With a split with the Padres and maybe taking 2 out of 3 against the Braves, that would be a good homestand for you?
That'd be a successful homestand.
I agree with you. Jack, thanks for the call again today. It's always a pleasure talking to you, young man. You continue to keep watching the game because your knowledge of the game is growing by every phone call I get from you.
Yes, sir. Have a nice day.
Thanks, Jack. I appreciate it. Jack's 13 years old, knows the game, love talking to young men and young girls about the game and how they educate themselves and watching and analyzing games. And it's always a pleasure throwing those kids on the air and talking baseball with them. And I honor Jack today. All right, we're going to take a quick break. 415-808-KNBR. Let's get on the phone lines. Got a few of them on hold. We'll take a quick break, come back with more right here on the Extra Inning Postgame Show on KNBR, the sports leader.
From the mound to the mic, this is KNBR Extra Innings with Bill Laskey.
Sponsored by Lenardi's Markets of the Bay Area. Quite simply, the best.
Hear him by saying to your smart speaker, play KNBR.
Your financial journey is unique, and Pettinelli Financial Partners is here to help you navigate it with confidence. So whether you're building your future or securing your retirement, their team provides lifelong personal guidance every step of the way. Start planning your financial journey today. Learn more at PettinelliFP.com. The financial consultants at Pettinelli Financial Partners are registered representatives with and securities offered through LPL Financial, member FINRA, SIPC. Investment advice offered through Stratus Wealth Partners, a registered investment advisor. Stratus Wealth Partners and Pettinelli Financial Partners are separate entities from LPL Financial.
The game may be over, but we know you want to talk more ball. So KNBR Extra Innings with Bill Laskey continues.
Sponsored by Lenardi's Markets of the Bay Area. Quite simply, the best.
We are KNBR 104.5 and 6.8, the sports leader.
All right, welcome into a Sunday edition of the Extra Inning Post Game Show with Bill Laskey. The Giants finish up the road trip, 9 games. They finish 4-5 as they win the rubber game of a 3-game matchup with the Miami Marlins today, winning 4-2. A big 3-run home run in the 4th inning by Luis Matos, his 4th of the year. Really hit a good one, changeup and a 1-0 changeup by Weathers, and he hit it 390 feet, and it was a big 3-run home run that really held on for the Giants, as the Giants ended up getting into their bullpen, had some problems with them, but they got out of it with Walker, Hicks, Rogers, Miller, and Camilo Duvall picking up his 7th save. So a name came out. Jeff Passan just threw this out on X, as we all called Twitter. A veteran first baseman of the New York Yankees named Dominic Smith. He plays first base as well as outfield. Exercised his out clause with the New York Yankees, has become a free agent. In month of May in AAA, he hit .317, 7 home runs. In his overall career, he's 29 years old, hitting .246, 64 home runs he's hit. So maybe there's a flyer there that Buster Posey will take a peek at what Dom Smith can do. And you have your left-handed first baseman in case there's a move with Lamont Wade Jr., and there's a name that's a possibility. He's played with the Reds, the Mets, the Yankees. He's bounced around, but it sure seems like this could be a possibility of picking up another power hitter that they need that could help them at first base. All right, Giants win 4-2. They're 33-26 coming back home. 4 against the Padres, 3 against the Braves. Let's go back on the phone lines, 415-808-KNBR. Let's go to Raj in Palo Alto. Raj, you're on with Bill Laskey. How is your Sunday going?
Oh, it's terrific, Bill. Always good listening to you. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. You're just waiting for a game where they score a couple runs. Of course, they scored 2 runs on Friday, and Melvin used his bullpen perfectly. It bothered me a little bit yesterday with Robbie Ray's outing that they couldn't scratch a run for him, and he ends up getting his first loss. But today, as I did my post game yesterday, wasn't really worried about Birdsong. I was worried more of the offense, and Luis Matos settled me in with a 3-run home run, and I think that was the kicker.
Well, he sure did. And it's got to be tough on pitchers, like Robbie Ray in the old days, Matt Cain, when you're not getting run support. But I'm kind of flipping the equation here. So growing up in Chicago, I always prided myself on being more leather, less wood. And so the question is, when you think back on your playing days, you think about all the terrific players you played with, across the season, not a career, but across the season, who might have been a ball player or two that just contributed mightily with the glove, but just struggled all season long with the bat? But they're still incredibly valuable. They probably gave you a run or 2 or 3, per week just with their glove. So anyone come to mind for you?
No question. No question, Raj. And I look at, maybe people remember Johnny LeMaster. Johnny LeMaster could go up the middle. His backhand, his throws were elite. He couldn't hit much. 220, 210. A couple years he might have got better. And a lot of people just booed him because he couldn't hit. And one time, Mike Murphy put a jersey on with "Boo" on the back of his jersey, number 10. A really funny thing. But I look at shortstop, second basemen. Kipe was a very good defensive second baseman. Joe Morgan and him were there in 82 and 83. You look up the middle. I think the middle guys, the shortstops and the second basemen, are kind of the guys that show the leather. They do the backhands. And today with that double play in the 9th inning with Fitzgerald to Adames to Schmidt, that was a quick turn with 2 speedy runners.
Well, that's where the question came from. I mean, Willie's obviously having a tough season at the plate, but he's helping so much. And I think it was John in the post-game show, saying that he, maybe it was Slam, saying that, Willie Adames just had a terrific game today. And I think we sometimes underestimate that. It's just amazing value. And
right.
I'm with you. It's often your shortstop, your second baseman. I think back, my Cubs growing up, Don Kessinger was terrific with the glove. Amazing with the
good
glove.
name. That's a great name. Yes, he was solid, too. Really a solid shortstop.
Absolutely. I mean, he'd never make you, forget Ernie Banks, but you didn't need.
Well, and you go back to Cub days, Raj. You go back to Cub days, you got to look at Ryan Sandberg, the Hall of Famer. He was outstanding at second base. I got to play against him all through the minor leagues. I was with the Royals. Of course, he was with the Cubs and the Phillies, but coming up, he wasn't that good of a glove man, and he made himself that good.
He sure did. I mean, he never failed you at the plate. He was terrific at the plate, but you're exactly right. He earned those at-bats with his gloves. So, yeah, right there with you. So, hey, thanks. It's always great listening to you.
Raj, thanks so much for the call. Call in more. I love talking some games back when we were watching, when you talked about the Cubs and some of the other games when you start thinking about great players. And you bring up a great point about sometimes you can't look at always about the offense. You got to look at the defense side. And I'm right there with you. Adames played stellar shortstop today.
I've got a novel coming out in September based on the 69 Cubs. It's called Double Play on the Red Line. So when you mentioned shortstops and second basemen, I said, yeah, that's exactly it. That matters. So we'll definitely catch up on that, Bill.
Well, definitely call back, and we'll talk about your book later on in the year. But congratulations on getting that done. That's a great one, and I love your relationship with infielders. I think that's a big, big plus when you're starting to talk about gloves and defense.
And, Chappie's the classic. I mean, obviously he can do it all around, but, Chappie gives his pitchers, gives the fans so much value there at third base. My gosh, we've had so many from J.T. Snow forward in the past few years. Brandon, they gave us so much with their glove. And, of course, J.T. Snow gave us something a little extra at the plate when he saved Dusty's boy, but that's a different kind of a catch, isn't it?
Well, you know what? And you know what, Raj? When you look at Gold Glove winners and you're looking through a lot of nostalgia and Gold Glove winners, I mean, there's so many good players and so many so talented at each position. It's so difficult when they put that list out and you see the Gold Glove winners and so many guys are second and third, and you're like, how didn't he get it? How didn't he get it with his numbers? That's why it's so impressive when you look at J.T. Snow and his 6 Gold Gloves. That was done with the Angels as well, the Giants.
Absolutely. Gave us lots of thrills, didn't he?
Yes, he did. Well, Raj, thanks for the call. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday, and I appreciate your time today. Let's go out to San Jose and talk to Ramon. Ramon, you're on the Extra Inning Postgame Show on a Sunday with Bill Laskey. How are you doing today?
How are you, Bill?
How are you, my friend? What's up, amigo?
I worry about the Giants offense. They can hit.
Well, I think we're all worried about their offense. They scrapped a home run by Matos today, and their bullpen had a couple little hiccups, but they got through it, Ramon, and they ended up winning 2 series out of these 9 games. And you know what? When they're flying home, you got to look at that when they've only scored 18 runs in this road trip.
Are they gonna be able to hit against San Diego Padres or the Braves?
Well, the Padres beat them twice when they were hot earlier in the year in May, and I think that's what they're going to have to do. There's some good starting pitching, as well as the Padre bullpen. The Padre bullpen has been electric all year. It starts tomorrow, and it really starts with Logan Webb on the hill. He has struggled against the Padres.
Yeah, I think we can hit. I was going to ask you, do you remember Mark Carrion?
Say his name again.
Mark Carrion.
Oh, yeah, I've known Mark very well. He was a teammate of mine. Yeah, of course I do.
Is he still alive? I remember that
he's still alive. He's still alive. I'm thinking he just had knee surgery or something. I saw it on a clip of something. He just had some surgery done. But, yeah, Mark Carrion Sr., because there's now a younger son of his that carries on his name. He was a good contact hitter and pretty good outfielder.
Great breaking ball hitter. I remember that. Yeah, that he will hit the curve really well,
Let me ask you, Ramon, do you like the switch with Camilo Duvall now at the closer rank?
I do. I never trust Ryan Walker. I don't like his delivery at all.
Yeah, the crossfire, and sometimes he overthrows that sinker and slider. Came in today spotless and ended up getting 2/3 of an inning out of that to save Birdsong. You know what? They're using different people in the middle of those innings to get out of innings, and J.P. Martinez and Bob Melvin very smart in doing that just to kill the inning and get a clean inning coming next, and they did that Friday. Boy, that was a tough game, 2-0, but the bullpen just shut them out.
Yeah, for me, a closer has to throw hard. I just don't trust his delivery.
Yeah, you like the old Goose Gossage then, huh? You remember Goose Gossage coming in with that big old mustache of his, and he was all arms and legs, and he threw about 95 at you.
Yeah, I remember he played for San Diego. He played for the Yankees.
Yankees. He played 1 year with the Giants, too. Who was your best closer that you remember?
Mariano Rivera.
Of course. I had a funny feeling you were going to say that. I had that on my brain, too. I had a funny feeling you were going to bring up Rivera with the masterful cutter he threw.
Bill, I know you like Matt Chapman, but the way Chapman played, do you consider that the hot corner because he played in left field?
He plays so deep. That's what you're saying. No, I'm a Matt Chapman. You know me. I brag about him all the time. And watching how he feels balls, especially the balls coming in, throwing from the hip, turn a nice double play ball today. I mean, I am a Matt Chapman fan. I think he's one of the best, if not the best. And I know you and I talked about Manny Machado against Matt Chapman. I know you're a big Machado fan, but I'm going to stick with my boy Matt Chapman.
Yeah, I see Machado or Arenado. I mean, they don't play that deep. So, you know, for me, Chapman played too deep. That's why he get all those balls. So it's no longer considered a hot corner when he playing there.
It's still a hot corner, Ramon. It's a hot corner with some of the balls coming at you. But it's a pleasure always talking to you, Ramon. You have a great week, and next weekend I'll be right back here on the Extra Inning Post Game Show after the Braves series. But good talking to you, Ramon. Have a great Sunday. I appreciate it. Let's go out to Berkeley and talk to my pal Andrea. Andrea, a fun day Sunday. We love that, Andrea.
Yes, I had to call. It's Sunday Fun Day. I'm actually at the Bay Area Book Festival. It's like, no, I got to call Bill. We got a Sunday Fun Day and a Birdsong win.
Yeah, well, I thought he threw very well today. I thought Birdsong kept it in, and when you look at what he did in the 5 and third innings, the pitch counts were down, 17 in the first, and then 15, 12, 16, 12, 16. Yes. He limited his pitches. He really used all 4 of his pitches that I talked about earlier in the show, and I think that's what we want to see out of a 23-year-old kid coming in. Ran out a little gas, got the ball up, but he's definitely gotten a lot better in all 3 starts.
Yes, August 30th, 2001. He's a Virgo, very efficient and hardworking and humble, and always wanted to improve himself. So he's the right man for the job. Good to see him back in the rotation. And I'm glad we turned the page, got into June. What do you think? We've got the June soon in May. We got that over with.
Yeah. When you look at what June did, counting today's game, they were 7-7 in their last 14 games. The offensive dismal, and I think we talk about this. It seems like every show, everybody doing post-game shows are wondering when the offense is going to wake up. It's got to. And now you're playing NL West teams. You got a tough schedule in June, and they're going to have to come up with some clutch hits. They're going to have to do this and get better. Andrea, this offense has to get better. How are they going to do it? What are they going to do? Switching guys here and there may help. Encarnacion, no doubt, will probably be on this roster come Monday. And I was talking about Dominic Smith, a player that just took free agency from the New York Yankees, is somebody they may have to take a flyer on. And a kid, 29 years old, has some power, a left-hand hitter. He plays outfield as well as first base. They might have to look into a couple players that are taking releases or even on the waiver wire just to get some new blood in here and get some more bats.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Yeah, keep our options open. Definitely really good to, have that and see what's out there. It's only June 1st. We've got a lot of baseball left.
There's a lot of baseball left, and I think they are looking at the offensive side. And yesterday's extra inning post-game show, we kind of looked at AAA, and there really isn't anybody that's sparking there that's ready to come up. Before the game today, the pregame show, Encarnacion is going to be in San Francisco. They're going to take a look at him before the game starts, see how he feels. He's had a couple home runs in Sacramento, hitting the ball pretty well. But they want to make sure he's healthy before they have to make a move, and we'll find out before the game tomorrow.
Look forward to it. It'll be nice to have him back home. I think that's some good mojo as well.
Yeah. Well, Andrea, thanks for the call today. Enjoy your time. It's a beautiful Sunday here in Northern California.
Yeah.
It's always a pleasure talking to you, Andrea. Take care.
Yes, enjoy.
All right, let's go out
Sunday.
to let's go out to Dublin and talk to Ingrid. Ingrid, you are on the Extra Inning Post Game Show. How are you doing today?
I'm great, and I just want to thank you for the insight that you have when you interview. Well, you have insight on every one of your shows. I look forward to them. You're one of the reasons I became a Giants fan. And I'm a Tiger fan, and growing up in Detroit, I was so excited for your interviews last weekend, and I kind of planned. My husband's not a baseball fan, so I said, okay, if you don't mind, I'm going to plan my day, my projects around listening to Bill Laskey. Bill who? But everywhere
watch
you
that.
go,
That husband might be getting jealous, Ingrid. You better watch out.
Well, no, he's, you know what? Anyway, I don't know. But everywhere you go, I love that you pull these interviews from.
I appreciate that. Yeah, and Ingrid, if listening to the shows, I grew up a Tiger fan, so my insight is with the Tigers.
When you said being from Toledo, and you know what, and the Giants are a great team. I mean, so you lose, but you know what? Growing up in Detroit, we are devoted fans because we don't always see winning teams, and so
I'm right there with you.
I think the Midwest we have good stock, and I just I love it when you make comment Toledo and all that stuff. Yeah, it makes me closer to home. Thank you so much.
You remembered Milt Wilcox and Frank Tanana and Lance Parrish. You remember those guys?
Frank Tanana's autograph, and my brother was a professional photographer. He worked for years for a paper in Detroit area. So, and he wasn't a baseball fan, but he would get great pictures. And in fact, it was fun. After I listened to that interview, I looked him up to see what he's doing now. And it turns Becky just threw out the first pitch for, the Farmington, an independent league, he
lives up in Michigan.
Yeah.
He lives up in Michigan. Very spiritual man. He's a minister, and I got to know Frank a little bit in my playing days, but I reached out to him, and I talked to him for 20 minutes before I even asked him to do an interview. It was funny, but a good man, really a fun interview. And Lance Parrish, he gave me more time than I even expected, and he goes, "Let's go, Bill." And I thought that was a really intense kind of going all the way back to his roots and where he learned how to play baseball and going through it all. And one of the things that I never even said, Ingrid, he was a bouncer for Tina Turner when she was around.
But yeah, the questions. I mean, I don't know how you prepare, but you're not a typical talk show host. I'm a sports junkie, and sometimes it's like, okay, some of these questions that the sports ask are like, but you have such good insight, and you ask poignant questions and questions that I would say have meat on them,
I appreciate that. And, it goes through the fraternity of baseball. Of course, me playing with the Giants and ended up playing with the Expos and the Indians back in the day. It's knowing what you can say and how you say it. And some questions are difficult. Sometimes I put them in a corner. But most of it is really just talking about their great careers. Terry Mulholland had an exclusive with it. Terry just doesn't do much at all, and I got to know Terry in 1986, and I was really, kind of surprised how he said it at the end of the interview when he said, I'm just so glad you're doing this because there's so many great players that are forgotten about. And it's true. I mean, even in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, there was some fantastic talent that a lot of us remember. And for me to reach back and talk to him, it's a pleasure. And I thank you for being a listener and a supporter.
Well, thank you, because my father passed away a couple of years ago, so it's like, okay, you're telling stories that he and I would have chatted with on the phone. So I just thank you. You are just such a huge asset to the Giants, and you know what? The Giants will be fine. They will be fine. In fact, I'm going to the Giants
there's 7 games. There's 7 games over 500. We can't complain. We can't complain.
No, you cannot. I'm going to the Giants game on Thursday with a friend of mine. And
Good.
Oh, yeah, it'll be a great game. So thank you
Well,
so
Ingrid, thank you for
very
calling.
much.
Thanks for calling in, Ingrid. And thank you for, like I said, supporting me and listening to the shows. And I got some good interviews coming up here next weekend with the Atlanta Braves, so you'll have to tune in for those.
That'll be fun. I'll look forward to it.
Thanks, Ingrid. Have a good rest of the day. I appreciate it. Giants win today, 4-2. They end up winning 2 out of 3 against the Miami Marlins, flying home a long flight. And tomorrow, 6:45, Logan Webb takes the hill. He's 5-5 with a 2.82 earned run average. All right, coming up, I get to talk to a good friend of mine, Gary Manick. Of course, he owns Birdman Bats, and we're going to learn about how bats are made and all different type of bats from birch to maple. And we're also going to dive in about the torpedo bat. That's the new invention that everything's working at, all the players are looking at, and Gary's going to give us that insight. So coming up next, Birdman Bats, and Bill Laskey sit down and give you a little information about how bats are made, right here on the Extra Inning Postgame Show on KNBR, the sports leader.
KNBR, the sports leader.
Furniture Showroom is a full-service home furnishing store located at 211 Baden Avenue in South San Francisco and has been in business for 92 years. It is one of the Bay Area's best-kept secrets. Still operated by the third-generation Georgie family, their goal is to offer expert and personal service as well as white-glove in-home delivery. Georgie Brothers also features a Simmons Beautyrest mattress gallery. Get a great night's sleep at an amazing price. Come visit our 50,000-square-foot showroom, which is full of beautiful quality furniture pieces. You can also visit them at GIORGIBROS.com.
Your financial journey is unique, and Pettinelli Financial Partners is here to help you navigate it with confidence. So whether you're building your future or securing your retirement, their team provides lifelong personal guidance every step of the way. Start planning your financial journey today. Learn more at PettinelliFP.com. The financial consultants at Pettinelli Financial Partners are registered representatives with and securities offered through LPL Financial, member FINRA, SIPC. Investment advice offered through Stratus Wealth Partners, a registered investment advisor. Stratus Wealth Partners and Pettinelli Financial Partners are separate entities from LPL Financial.
miss a second of the action from Bo Bell's squad. Listen to the best double plays in the business.
Wisely has it, flips to Fitzgerald for one, over to first, double play.
Plays at the plate.
Freeman hits a high chopper to Chapman. He's got it. He's coming home, and the throw in the tag, and they got him.
Sean Miller's home run calls.
There's a shot deep down the left field line. It's on its way from Berkeley. Adios, pelota.
All season long on the San Francisco Giants radio network.
Handcrafted in the Bay Area of California, Birdman Bats offer some of the finest, highest quality wood baseball bats and gloves in the world. Stand out this season on or off the diamond with our infinite options of customization at birdmanbats.com. Turn your visions into reality with our online bat and glove builder, and check out all the other gear we offer as well. All available at birdmanbats.com. Birdman Bats. Chirp, chirp.
You're listening to the former Giants righty. It's KNBR Extra Innings with Bill Laskey.
Sponsored by Lenardi's Markets of the Bay Area. Quite simply, the best.
Heard on your Apple HomePod by saying play KNBR.
Welcome back to this Sunday edition of the Extra Inning Post-Game Show with Bill Laskey. Giants end up winning today, taking 2 out of 3 from the Marlins, taking 2 series out of a 9-game series, 9-game road trip where they beat Washington 2 out of 3, end up losing to Detroit 3 out of 3, and then they took 2 out of 3 from Miami. So coming home with a 4-5 record on a 9-game road trip. You heard this commercial as we brought it in. Let's bring in my good friend Gary from Birdman Bats. Gary, how are you today?
Hey, Bill, thanks for having me. I'm doing great.
Oh, it's a pleasure to have you. And, of course, you're supporting the Extra Inning Post-Game Show this year. And Birdman Bats, a big production company you have in Redwood City. A lot of work being done down there. I had an opportunity to go through the factory, as I would say it. But tell us a little bit about how it all started.
It all started with me just having this idea that I wanted to make my own bats. And it kind of all spawned out of that. It was kind of crazy how it's taken off so much over these past few years.
Gary, you played some college ball, high school baseball. The bat companies back then were a difficult road. There wasn't many options that a lot of the kids got to play with. How did you manage just to all of a sudden jump into learning about bats?
Well, I'll never forget the first time I was tasked with finding a wood bat for myself to play in the leagues when I was about 18, and there's just like one option, and the bats hit balls like wet newspapers. People still use that term. It's funny when they just have no pop and they feel like a soggy log, but sourcing my own and making like a professional grade bat for myself was a goal, and I made it happen and started making them for friends and other people, and I had some friends in professional ball that I would make them for as like a little good luck charm every year, and people started taking notice of the silliness of the design and like the lighthearted nature of it all, and also like the quality, and people wanted to order one, and then it just spun out of control from there.
That voice you hear in the Extra Inning Post-Game Show, my good friend Gary Manick, he's the owner of Birdman Bats. Let's talk about that logo. It's very, what you say, funny? Would you say it is a funny logo, a hilarious logo? But I tell you, it's a cool-looking logo. I have one on my bat, and it definitely is an eye-opener.
It's a kind of an homage to playing baseball like you did when you were a kid, when you had no worries, and you thought about none of the things you think about when you start to get to the higher levels, and you start defeating yourself mentally when everybody has similar skill sets. So it's just a little thing to kind of remind you to chill out and just hit the ball and play with a smile on your face. And a lot of people really take to that.
Well, you established this company in 2011, probably out of your garage. You're a very mechanical kind of person. When you look at what happened from 2011 to all of a sudden 2025, what are the biggest changes you see?
I think the profiles of the bats, like bats used to be really big, like the metal bats are, and nowadays they're so much smaller, and the Major League Baseball's put millions of dollars into the wood science testing, and they found all these like waterfall drop-offs and durability with the densities, and like all the science has really proven itself. So I think the profile's changing, and like the bats becoming more durable and not breaking and exploding all over the field like they did back in 2011 is one of the biggest things that I would say I see.
When you look at the what bats are made of, back in my day in the 80s, everything was ash. It was a light-colored bat. You maybe saw a couple black ones here and there. But then they ended up going to birch, and then, of course, maple bats were the biggest things. And now, of course, there are torpedo bats coming on. But before we get into torpedo bat, tell me a little bit about ash compared to birch compared to maple.
So yeah, ash has been around and was the biggest, wood used for 100+ years. And then comes Barry Bonds with his maple bat. He's the one that really started that and hitting all those home runs. It really sparked people's interest in the maple bats. Are a different kind of hardwood. It's a diffuse porous hardwood versus a ring porous hardwood, which is the ash. And as you use the ash, it delaminates, and even if you don't break it, it eventually just is no longer usable because the wood separates at the grains. And where maple and birch are diffuse porous hardwood, they get harder as you use them. So you could have one that lasts for quite some time, unlike an ash bat. So there's this ash boring beetle that's kind of making ash trees and forests go extinct. So there was like limited access to the ash on top of then the hardness and durability of the maple and birch bats. It really just flipped the script, and now all these different woods are used.
Gary, when you're looking at the selection of wood, of course, you showed me so many different ways of producing wood and how they come in their cylinders. Is there a different grain in each bat? Is it harder on some of them? I know back in the day when Jack Clark would get his bat, the grain would be 1 inch to 2 inches apart where the grain, and then the other ones that the pitchers got, the grain was not even a tenth of an inch, and it made the bat so much better, of course, when the grain was thicker or open more. Tell me a little bit about how that's managed.
So the grains, like the thickness of the grains, is always such a big thing with the ash, and maple and birch is very different. So you really just need straight grains. So the big deal is the straightness of the grain, the slope of grain, and Major League Baseball insists that each bat has a little ink dot test on it to prove its straightness of grain. It has to be less than 3%. So anything more than 3% off, like perfectly straight, gets rejected and can't be used in professional baseball. So they have a very strict policy on how perfect the pieces of wood need to be for the professional level.
Gary, back in the day, you'd go and get your bats. You'd say, what's the weight, 32 ounce, 34 length. Of course, that's changed now with all the analytics and how bats are made. Is that a difficult part of changing each bat to the dynamics of the hitter?
That is the most difficult part, because you order a pallet of wood, say that's 300 pieces, and there might only be 15 pieces out of those 300 that will make a specific bat that professionals want. And so you have another 285 pieces that you can't use for that. So you have to create quite a stockpile to be able to serve every corner of every player that has their different lengths, different weights, different profiles. And there's a lot of science involved.
Mm-hmm. And that's how you pretty much make individual bats, correct? When somebody orders their individual bats, you have to look at what they're using, how much power on the end of the bat, what's their handle of the bat, because that was my next question. Handles have changed a lot. They have a thicker base on some of them. Some of them are thinner. I remember Al Oliver used to have all head on his bats, and his handle of the bat was so skinny, he said he didn't care if he cracked 100 bats as long as he hit that head of where the power was. Is handles a big part of making bats?
Yeah, there's so many different handles and knobs, and I think you're right. The latest trends lead to like a thicker bottom hand in the handle, which is very different than metal bats. And a lot of kids coming out of metal bats aren't used to that, and they want the traditional handle. So they're there, and we sell them. But I think the majority of the bats we sell have the tapers in the bottom hand. And it's funny you say about the barrel and the handle, because I tell pros all the time, like, sure, you can have that biggest barrel and thinnest handle, but it's going to break, a lot more than some of these others. But those pro guys, they don't care. They want what they want, and, the team's paying for them. So if they break 100 of them, then they'll order 100 more.
So teams are definitely get a hold of you. A lot of players, too. I know you've had a lot of them on your wall of fame there. Some great players that have used the Birdman bats. So we got to jump into this torpedo bat, the new sensational invitation. I mean, it's supposed to be one of the greatest things that ever happened in bats. And, of course, it opened up in the beginning of the year with the Yankees hitting so many home runs in that first homestand they had. And I'm sure your phone rang off the hook with can you make me a torpedo bat? Tell us a little bit about how you make a torpedo bat and how it looks, because it looks like a bowling pin. I think that's pretty much how everybody looks at it.
Yeah, it's funny they get referred to as bowling pin bats or torpedo bats. Those are the two main terms. And when that happened, it's like I was just talking about Barry Bonds and making the maple bat explode. It was like, you know, give it the Yankees. They did some good with these torpedoes, and it made the torpedo explode. It always takes that catalyst, you know, and it's not a one-stop shop for, like, there's just not one torpedo bat. So, like, every bat we make could be a torpedo, and major league teams, when they call and order them, if they're doing it right, they analyze the player's data and send me a bell curve sheet where it shows the contact that they make the most on the bat, and say like 7.5 inches down the barrel is pretty common. And so that's where you put the emphasis of the torpedo, like the bulge of it. And then you take meat off the top and put it under it and around it to make that hitting surface where you hit the ball the most be the biggest access point for the barrel for the ball. And it also moves the swing weight down to change the MOI to kind of make the bat like swing itself through at a specific point. And it helps you, especially with guys that get jammed and guys that struggle to hit the ball on the inside. Those are the things that the torpedo, I think, helps with the most.
Gary, analytics really show a lot of this, right? It's all through the computer on where guys hit the ball every time, and it's measured where they're hitting the barrel of the bat. There's so much information they give to you, and you have to sort it out.
Yeah, it's wild. And like some guys, they litter the ball all over their barrels and like a long barrel and don't want a torpedo. And then there's some of those guys that just are making a lot of contact on the inside down towards the label, and those guys are just feeding and feasting off the torpedoes. It's really helped them. So it's not for everybody. I think guys that like the outside pitch, guys that, you know, drive the ball the other way a lot, like and are capping the ball, I say, like off the end, those guys are not guys really fit for a torpedo, but those guys on the inside, more down the barrel, that's just perfect for them.
Does it matter if the torpedo bat, can you bunt with them? I mean, is there a different way that you can use that barrel, bunting the ball a little bit more? Is that hurt the bat at all when you try to do something like that?
That's about the bunting. I've been asked about that a lot, and I don't think a torpedo bat's going to be your best candidate to drop bunts with, but hey, I guess, you know, these professionals, they can have a lot of different bats, and I think that you'd want like something with a longer profile with a lot of hitting surface to drop a bunt.
Gary Manick on the Extra Inning postgame show. Of course, he is the owner of Birdman Bats out of Redwood City. I love your new addition to Birdman Bats, and those are baseball gloves. I saw a good quantity of those. How'd you get into using baseball gloves now with Birdman Bats?
That's something we wanted to do from the beginning because, you know, being a quirky brand, we attract pitchers, and pitchers don't hit, so like they've always been like, when are we going to get the gloves? When are we going to get the gloves? So we've been wanting to do it for a long time, and there's like a lot of character to put into a glove, so we finally, you know, grew enough and got on our feet to a point where we were able to launch the glove line. This year's our first year. We have them in retail. We have pro guys using them. They're all over, and this week we probably I was sending, the one day I sent like 30 of them to different individuals that had ordered them. And I keep getting more and more excited on those days when I pack all those boxes of gloves because it's another avenue of the business and it shows that we're growing. So it's really cool. We actually had a guy on the AA Squirrels, the Richmond team, one of the pitchers using the glove the other day. And I think he closed out a game and it was on their Flying Squirrels social media. And it was really cool to see the gloves and start to see that stuff like popping up on the internet.
Well, you supported Big League Coach in fantasy camp, and all my campers were so excited to get that bat that we made for them, and it was such a big surprise, and looking forward to January when we do it again. But, Gary, where can fans, where can hitters, where can fielders learn more about Birdman Bats and all the gloves you throw out there?
Well, the website's birdmanbats.com, and that has all our products on there. But I always send people to Instagram. It's just, you know, Birdman Bats, all one word. The social medias really show the product and the people that use it and are a part of it and behind it. And it's a real good look into what we're about and what we provide and how we do it.
Well, it's a pleasure having you on today. And of course, I thank you for supporting Extra Inning Postgame Show. It's always a pleasure finding out more about Birdman Bats when I talk to you. But thank you again for your time today.
Yeah, thanks, Bill. Appreciate you having me on.
That was Gary Manick. He's the owner of Birdman Bats. Go to birdmanbats.com. Take a look at Instagram. You'll find more about what you want to purchase because he's got some great, great stuff. All right, we're going to take a quick break. Come back with more right here on the Sunday edition of the Extra Inning Postgame Show with Bill Laskey. Giants win today 4-2, coming home with a 4-5 road trip. More coming up right here on the Sports Leader.
KNBR, the Sports Leader.
Georgie Brothers Furniture Showroom is a full-service home furnishing store located at 211 Baden Avenue in South San Francisco and has been in business for 92 years. It is one of the Bay Area's best-kept secrets. Still operated by the third-generation Georgie family, their goal is to offer expert and personal service as well as white-glove in-home delivery. Georgie Brothers also features a Simmons Beautyrest mattress gallery. Get a great night's sleep at an amazing price. Come visit our 50,000-square-foot showroom, which is full of beautiful quality furniture pieces. You can also visit them at GIORGIBROS.com.
Wag, Play, Bark. Wag Hotels offers fun-filled, supervised play for your pet in a safe and clean environment. Whether it's a day of doggy daycare or an overnight stay, Wag Hotels' welcoming and friendly staff is there 24/7, 365 days a year to care for your pet. Pamper your pet with the Wag Hotels spa and grooming services, training, one-on-one buddy time, and much more. Wag Hotels Wag Cam lets you check in on your pet anytime. Locations in Northern and Southern California. Visit waghotels.com for more information.
This is KNBR Extra Innings with former Giants right-hander Bill Laskey.
Sponsored by Lenardi's Markets of the Bay Area. Quite simply, the best.
Hear him on your Apple HomePod by saying play KNBR. Play KNBR.
Welcome back to the Extra Inning Postgame Show on KNBR with Bill Laskey. My guest today is an MLB insider. He also is the ESPN senior writer. You can read his work at ESPN.com. Oh, by the way, he's got the #1 podcast, Baseball Tonight with Buster Olney. Let's welcome in Buster. Hi, Buster. How are you today?
Doing great, Bill. It's great to talk with you. I must say, when I was an idiot college student back in the 80s, you were part of my rotation at Stratomatic. So great to catch up with you.
That makes me proud today, Buster. Well, listen, we're over a third of the season of the 2025 year, and I'm looking at the National League compared to the American League. In the National League, there's 7 teams that have over 30 wins. The Yankees and the Tigers in the American League have, 30 or more, but there's a couple of them that are close to it. Is the National League that strong compared to the American League in the first part of the season?
Yeah, without a doubt. Look, it's the greatest disparity between the two leagues that I've ever seen. And, I've run that past a number of people in the sport, general managers, players, managers, and said, are you seeing the same thing I am? Like the National League is much stronger overall than the National League or than the American League. And they're all like, yeah, absolutely. You think about, when you do a power ranking every week, at this point, with the way the Tigers have played, Terry Skubal on the mound, they're a top 5 team. Yankees are in the top 10 somewhere. The rest of them are National League teams. There are going to be 2 excellent National League teams, at least, that are not going to make the playoffs. Which is why I think the National League this year is so much fun.
Well, we definitely have to look at the NL West, of course, out here with the Giants. They're staying right in the hunt of it. But you got to look at this whole National League West. When you look at the Dodgers, the Giants, the Padres, the D-backs, are all 4 of these teams going to continue on the hunt throughout the month of June, especially when they're starting to play each other?
Yeah, I think so. And I would say this, each of these teams, and it's not a surprise, and no one's going to feel sorry for them. Each of these teams, I think, in the West, other than the Giants, have a significant problem they're dealing with. As you and I talk, the Dodgers lead the majors in bullpen innings, which is nuts. Because normally it's a team like the Rockies or the White Sox or, bad teams lead that. It's the Dodgers because they've had so many pitching injuries. The Diamondbacks with their bullpen, shockingly bad after injuries to Puck and Martinez. And look, the Padres, in the end, might be the most dangerous team because they've got that great dominant bullpen and they got star power, but they also have less depth than the other teams. So in some respects, I feel like, the old story, the tortoise and the hare, the Giants are kind of the tortoise to me. Like slow and steady, not necessarily as dynamic as the Dodgers with Ohtani and all those stars, but over the course of a season, it's a pretty good team.
Buster Olney joining me on the Extra Inning Postgame Show. Let's dive into this Giants. Of course, their pitching has been number 1 out of the bullpen. They've just been lights out. The starting pitching with Robbie Ray, Logan Webb, now Hayden Birdsong in the mix. Is this something that the Giants can kind of put a little note in front and say, hey, dangle this in front of a few teams possibly by July to maybe move a couple of these pitchers for some big bats?
Absolutely. Look, I think that the old, especially with the parity of the American League, and this morning 11 teams in the American League have a 23% or better chance to make the playoffs. So in the American League, there are not going to be a lot of sellers. If you're, head of baseball operations like Buster Posey, there's always the question, it could be buyer, seller, but I think there's a third category now in the sport, and that is opportunists. Teams that have the sort of depth where they could take advantage of a thin trade market. And that's, to me, is where the Giants seem to be because, as you know, from the Yankees, Red Sox, so many teams, the Dodgers are scrambling for starting pitching. And so for the Giants to be in this position is pretty good. And I agree with you. I think they should at least, do the war games and explore those trade conversations, see what they could get.
Buster, the offense has been dismal. They've been really struggling on the road, getting runs, getting some kind of offense rolling. They're 24th out of 30 teams with a .230 batting average. When you look at what the Giants have, Elliot Ramos, Jung-Hoo Lee, Wilmer Flores are really the top 3 hitters. Willie Adames, Matt Chapman have been struggling this whole third part of the season. What can the Giants do with this offense?
Well, first and foremost, if you are a general manager and you're looking for help in the trade market, there's not necessarily going to be a lot out there. Maybe the Baltimore Orioles, Cedric Mullins, Ryan O'Hearn, they've got a few guys that they might market if you're the Giants and you're looking for upgrades. But I think the biggest thing is you just have to assume that, Matt Chapman, Willie Adames are going to play to the back of their baseball cards, and they'll perform better. And I mean, you know better than I do. I look at the Giants, and it's interesting because, their pitching has been so good. They're actually, I think, 10th in the majors in runs scored, which is nuts. It's an offense that seems to be, greater than the sum of its parts, and that's who they need to be during the course of the year.
Well, Buster, when you look at one-run games, they seem to be in one-run games every other day. And you start looking at comeback wins, they're a great comeback team. Once you get into the Giants bullpen, it's lights out. When you look at Rodriguez with a .79 earned run average, Duvall 1.16, Eric Miller 1.5, Rogers 1.8. These guys just keep coming at you with high velocity, and then you get Tyler Rogers throwing it from the bowling ball error when he's got it down and done under, and he's throwing about an 80-mile-an-hour fastball. This is something that the Giants have, and they're really making a lot of good points out of their bullpen.
Absolutely. A couple of weeks ago, I was telling my son, my 20-year-old son, and I share a fantasy league team together. I'm like, look at the Giants bullpen. Start plucking some of those guys. We saw with the Padres last year that if you have a dominant bullpen, then you can separate yourself, because it feels like in this era in which, everyone's throwing harder than they ever have, guys are dropping like flies, and teams that we thought had great bullpens, like the Diamondbacks, that can come and go really quickly. It's probably the one part of a team that the volatility is such that you could be among the best at the beginning of the year and then among the worst at the end. The Washington Nationals 2019, they had one of the statistically worst bullpens the first 2 months of the year, and they were the team in the dog pile winning the World Series at the end of the year. The fact that the Giants have this kind of unit to back up what is a really stable rotation generally, I mean, you feel like that all year this is going to be the Giants' advantage, especially over the Dodgers, who, man, I mean, they are just in pieces right now.
Buster Olney from Baseball Tonight is joining me on the Extra Inning postgame show for a few more minutes. Let's look at the schedule for the Dodgers, one of the hardest schedules coming up for them. The Yankees for 3, the Mets for 4, the Cardinals for 3, the Padres for 7, the Giants for 3. You talked about the use of their bullpen. Can they get through this stretch of games?
I think they will, because their offense is so extraordinary. There's 3 Hall of Famers at the top. But let me tell you, they're waiting for the cavalry to arrive.
Oh, yeah.
The other day, I saw something which I'd never seen before, which is, a guy's throwing a simulated game, and, there are tons of players, probably like 40 players from 2 teams out at 2:30 in the afternoon to watch Ohtani do a practice session. And I asked Carlos Mendoza, the Mets manager, about it. How come you were out there early? And he was like, it's Shohei Ohtani. It's like watching Tiger Woods, do a practice round. But I would say this, Ohtani looked great. They're hopeful that he'll be back in a couple of months. He's just starting to build up his pitch count. They're hoping that Tyler Glasnow comes back. They're hoping that Blake Snell can come back. But there are no sure things with that group. Other than Yamamoto, who's going to be a Cy Young candidate this year, they have to fill in the gap. And it does feel like, I talked to Dave Roberts the other day, it feels like every day he starts with, okay, who's available today? What can we piece together today? And no one's going to feel sorry for them, given all the money they have in these players, but it is going to be a challenge.
Well, Buster, you talked about the offense. Ohtani, 295, 19 home runs, 33 RBIs, 11 stolen bases. Freddie Freeman is getting hot, 360, 9 home runs, 35 RBIs. But there's also a guy in this lineup that's kind of like a hidden talent, and that's Will Smith. Will Smith is on fire. 333, 5 home runs. Here's a guy that's just staying in the back of the woods, but when he gets his bats, he's taking advantage of it.
Yeah, and I would say this, when you look at players, I don't know what the first numbers you look at are, but I always look at the walks and strikeouts, which gives me some sort of read on what kind of hitter that guy is. Last year, I believe these numbers are right, 51 walks, 105 strikeouts, so a 2-to-1 strikeout to walk ratio. This year, Bill, it's 1-to-1.
Wow.
And in talking with Dave Roberts the other day, he started Sunday's game with, I think, 29 walks and 30 strikeouts. And I asked him about that adjustment, and he said that it isn't necessarily that he's going up to the plate looking to, draw a walk and get on base. He said he's so good It's spoiling two-strike pitches. He's not afraid to hit with 2 strikes. And when you get that type of guy following, all the on-base percentage opportunities, on-base opportunities that you can have with Ohtani and Betts and Freeman, Teoscar around him, you're going to do a ton of damage. I completely agree with you. And I think this is still right. He leads the National League in on-base percentage, and he's not one of the stars that we talk about.
And that's that hidden gem in that lineup. Hey, Buster, let me jump into the NL East real quick here. Philadelphia just got hot real quick. And, of course, when you're looking at Philadelphia, Zach Wheeler, 9 quality starts already. But Kyle Schwarber's starting to get hot, as well as Turner. Both these guys have been starting to drive in runs. Schwarber especially, 18 home runs right now, 40 RBIs. Is the Phillies hot? Are they going to stay on top of the East?
I think they are going to stay on top of the East. And look, we talked about them being the best team in baseball last year for 4 months before they absolutely, collapsed down the stretch. And when you talk about Schwarber and Turner, you're talking about 2 guys who made significant adjustments for this year. With Schwarber, it was physical. In the middle of last year, he had some stomach issues. He's in much better shape. Jed Hoyer, the head of baseball operations for the Cubs, saw him at Wrigley Field last month, and that was the first thing that jumped out to him was like, man, Schwarbs is in great shape, and he needs to be putting himself in a better position. And during the offseason, Rob Thompson, the Phillies manager, went to talk to Trey, and he said, look, we're at our best when you are, hitting the ball, using the whole field, you're stealing bases, you're scoring runs from the top of the lineup versus the guy who's jacking the ball and hitting 30 home runs. He said, I have no doubt you can do that, but we're at our best when you're using the whole field. That's what Turner's been doing this year.
Well, the Mets have definitely got one of the top pitching staffs, but you got to look at Pete Alonso, and Alonso's really holding that offense together. Soto's been struggling. Maybe some mental stress, maybe putting more pressure on himself. Alonso's just dialed in, close to 300, about 290, 295, 10 home runs. What do you think of the Mets? Is Soto really causing that much of a stir that he's struggling day to day?
He is. And look, we've had him on the last 2 Sunday nights. And Juan Soto is a future Hall of Famer. He's an incredible talent. I'm sure at some point he's going to turn it around. But you and I have seen many examples of guys who go into big markets from the outside. And Soto grew up, obviously, in the Nationals organization. They take a big contract, and there's so much scrutiny on them. Lindor struggled at the outset. Alex Rodriguez struggled at the outset. Jason Giambi. And I think that's part of what's going on with Soto. One big difference is no one ever questioned the effort of Lindor or Alex Rodriguez. And I got to say, having seen Soto play a lot the last 10 days, there have been times when I'm sitting there scratching my head going, why'd you run out the ball? Like he hit a fly ball to center field on Saturday. He didn't make it halfway up the first baseline before he peeled off to the dugout. And it was really interesting to me before our Sunday night game with the Mets and the Dodgers, how other Mets were going out of their way to give him some protection. Lindor wore the microphone for us in that game, and when we talked to him beforehand, the first thing he said was, I want to talk about Soto. Like they understand that he's at a tipping point with the fans in New York, and so there's something really endearing about the fact that teammates are stepping up for him, but it's year one of a 15-year, $765 million deal. The fact that they're having to put out that effort, there's no question it's a little concerning. I do think he's kind of at a tipping point with the fans there.
The good thing about it, the teammates are sticking up for him. That means that locker room is getting stronger with him, and we both know he is going to eventually get better and get hot, and everything's going to kind of disappear. Let's hope that for the New York Met fans. As we finish up with Buster Olney, let's take a quick look at the NL Central, because really 2 teams are running away with this. The Cubs, of course, have great offense. Just don't know if that pitching is going to hold on. But sure enough, the St. Louis Cardinals got hot real quick, and that all jumps with the Brendan Donovan, who is just mashing the ball for him.
Yeah, with the Cubs, look, their offense is much better. And when I talked to Dansby Swanson about it earlier this year, he just shook his head. He goes, Kyle Tucker. He basically feels that having that aircraft carrier in the middle of the year lineup makes such a difference. He takes pressure off of everybody, because he's getting on base and creating opportunities constantly. He's going to be a big signing this offseason. I think he's going to get over $500 million as a free agent. And Pete Crow Armstrong, his emergence has been I think shocking to everybody. They all thought he was a great player, great defender, do a lot of things on the bases. I didn't think people would think he'd be like Aaron Judge in terms of his home run production. And with the Cardinals, to me, if the Baltimore Orioles are the biggest bad surprise, the biggest good surprise are the Cardinals, because they didn't do anything in the offseason. But this year they played great defense, and they're actually third in the majors on base percentage behind the Yankees and the Dodgers. And, you know better than I do, that is something that typically is consistent. If you got a team of guys who get on base, that could remain all year. They do have a tough decision in a tough National League. Do you swap out marketable players before the trade deadline, or do you go for it? And we get the old, fashioned Cubs and Cardinals, the rivalry down the stretch.
Well, Buster, I appreciate your time today. It's great catching up with you again. I hope I did well for you in that Stratomatic game.
Hey, the Green Mountain Boys, I'm from Vermont, so my team was Green Mountain Boys. We won 4 consecutive championships. Sorry you haven't gotten your ring.
Well, I tell you, I'll trade it out for a conversation with you. How's that?
Okay, that sounds great.
Buster, thanks again. That was Buster Olney on the Extra Inning Postgame Show. More coming up right here on KNBR, the sports leader. All right, welcome back to the Sunday edition of the Extra Inning Postgame Show. As we wind down a Sunday show, Giants win 4-2 in Miami, coming home with a 4-5 record on a 9-game road trip, taking 2 series against the Nationals and the Marlins. Tomorrow they start a 7-game homestand, 4 with the Padres and 3 with the Braves, and we'll have it right here. 6:45 first pitch. Logan Webb will be on the hill. I want to thank Gary Manick from Birdman Bats for joining me today, as well as take a look at his website, birdlandbats.com. Also, Buster Olney from ESPN for joining me today. If you could take a look at all KNBR podcasts, if you missed either one of those, they'll be up there. I want to thank Raph for producing the show, and also thank you, Giants fans, for calling in. It's always a pleasure talking to you on every weekend on the Extra Inning Post-Game Show. Tomorrow, Sports Phone KNBR, I'll be doing the post-game show tomorrow as well as on Friday, and we'll be right back here next Saturday and Sunday after the Braves games, and we'll have more Extra Inning post-game sends there. For Bill Laskey, be safe, be well, have a great rest of the day. Giants win today, 4-2. On with Yankees against the Dodgers coming up next on ESPN, and that'll be covered right here on KNBR, the Sports Leader.
KNBR, the Sports Leader.
In the first two games, an 8-5 victory on Friday night, an 18-2 drubbing of New York. Last night, the Yankees will try to avoid a sweep in just a little bit. Right now, we welcome Steven Nelson. He's the play-by-play voice of the Los Angeles Dodgers. Hear him on AM 570 LA Sports. And Steven, let's start with the atmosphere this weekend. You got the Yankees in town, all the pomp and circumstance of having the defending American League champions taking on the reigning World Series champions. What has the atmosphere been like at the ballpark?
I think that's spot on. It's not just the rematch. This could be a sign of what's to come, because these two teams, once again, in a driver's seat in their respective leagues. Obviously, that's said with respect to the Detroit Tigers and the Phillies and the other contenders in a loaded National League. But I got to say, this was circled on everybody's calendar, especially that of Major League Baseball going into the season. There's just a special buzz whenever these two teams get together, and, thankfully we get that every year now with the balanced schedule.
You look at the talent on this team, then you look at the talent the Dodgers have on the IL. You practically have an all-star team there that's not in uniform. How are they managing so much success given all the injuries?
It's just, this organization of the last dozen years has turned itself into a true juggernaut, and it's not just a top-heavy team. This organization is layered with talent, from the big league club to every level of the minor leagues, and that's exactly why they're in this spot. Obviously, look, I'd be a fool if you didn't acknowledge the elephant in the room, and that the Dodgers, they compared to most of the teams in Major League Baseball, they spend. Whatever money that they are bringing in, they put a lot of it back into the team, and so that helps you acquire a lot of talent, and they've certainly done that. But look, it's not just like anybody could have had Freddie Freeman a couple years ago. Anybody could have fleeced the Boston Red Sox a few years ago, and so the Dodgers were very fortunate with deals like that. But then they've also brought some guys along. But you're absolutely spot on. 14 pitchers alone on the injured list. That's to say nothing of Mookie Betts, who's not going to play this weekend because of his fractured toe. Everybody look out for your nightstands when you're going to the bathroom in the middle of the night, please. But there's no timetable for return for guys like Blake Snell, a two-time Cy Young Award winner. Tyler Glasnow, who's got Cy Young Award ability, just doesn't pitch enough in his career. And then basically the entire back end of their bullpen is on the shelf right now with Blake Trinan and Kirby Yates and Michael Kopech and the like. So, this team is really they're just trying to tread water. This is the toughest 4-week stretch of their season. Really, I think the toughest 4 weeks any team is going to have across the league with the amount of quality teams, first-place teams that they're going to play. And so they're just trying to stay afloat until they get some bodies back.
Voice of the Dodgers joining me, Steven Nelson, as we're taking you up to the Yankees and the Dodgers just after the top of the hour. It's Baseball Tonight on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. When you look at maybe one concern for this Dodgers team, we talked about the injuries, but just the overall bullpen usage. How big a worry is that going forward? How sustainable is it to continue to get the production they've got with how much they're using this bullpen?
I'm going to be honest with you. It's not. I don't think it's sustainable at all. This is not the path that they want to follow again. They did it last year, and they got away with it, right? So you could say, well, they've done it before. Yeah, but they don't want to do it again because you saw how much the bullpen was used last year. A lot of those guys that they rode are hurt right now. Blake Trinan on the 60-day injured list. Evan Phillips is lost for the season because he's going to have Tommy John surgery. Alex Vesia hasn't been as effective. Anthony Banda hasn't been as effective. And so the Dodgers, again this year, have the most innings pitched of any bullpen in baseball because their starters have been on the injured list, as we talked about, the 14 pitchers that are hurt, including a number of their big-name, big-money starters. And then the guys who have been pitching and starting games just haven't gone near deep enough. I mean, not even saying like the days of yesteryear when starters were going 6 and 7 routine. I mean, these guys are toughing out to get through 4 and 5. So you're just putting a strain. There's a ripple effect every single series when you do that to your bullpen and to your staff. And so that's something that the Dodgers have to shore up quick. Otherwise, you're going to run out of gas before this season is even close to finishing.
Steven Nelson, the voice of the Los Angeles Dodgers. Dodgers and the Yankees first pitch just about 30 minutes from now. I'm Chris Villani. It's Baseball Tonight on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
3-2, the payoff pitch. Swinging a drive in the air, pretty well hit, right center, going back, Freeman still going, it is gone! A line drive, home run! And for Soto, his 10th home run of the year, and the Mets get an insurance run. It is now the Mets 5 and the Rockies 3.
That from 880 ESPN earlier today, 5-3 final for the Mets and a home run for Juan Soto as we welcome back ESPN MLB insider Buster Olney. And Buster, let's start with Soto. Hitless in the Mets series against the White Sox, but he's gotten it going this weekend a little bit. Now home runs in back-to-back games. How can he use this series as a bit of a springboard to try to get his season back on track?
Well, it was clear in the games that we had, first in that Yankee series in Yankee Stadium, and then last weekend when he faced the Dodgers, that Soto's confidence was waning. You could see it with the lack of conviction in his plate appearances. So what we've seen this weekend is a really good sign that maybe he's going to build going forward. And look, when I was in Citi Field last week, there was just a smattering of boos for Soto. As David Cohn, my colleague on Sunday Night Baseball, said to me many years ago, look, the fans want to cheer you. And so this weekend, Juan Soto gave Mets fans an excuse to cheer him.
Definitely, and the Mets pick up another victory. Meanwhile, the Astros getting a little bit of a setback here with Yordan Alvarez. Initially thought it was a strain in his hand. Turns out it's a fractured hand, so his return has been derailed a bit. How big a blow is this for Houston?
It's a body blow because, look, the Astros, we've seen over the last 4 or 5 years the departure of so many great stars from that lineup. And this year, in particular, Alex Bregman walking away as a free agent, Kyle Tucker being traded to the Chicago Cubs. So they need Yordan Alvarez to be in the lineup and be productive, and when he's out, I mean, that's a really big deal. You also wonder, as he's coming back from that sort of injury in his hand, is this going to be an issue that lingers for a bit? Sometimes it does. Hitters will tell you that if they suffered a hand injury during the year, it really isn't until a winter of healing that they get back to how they felt before.
We're talking with Buster Olney. It's Sunday Night Baseball here on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. The flip side of the injury picture, Ronald Acuna Jr. for the Braves. He's really come off the IL raking. What do you make of his performance since he came back healthy?
A lot more confident than he was, I think, when we saw him coming back from his first knee injury a couple of years ago. The way he's moving, the way he's attacking, it's pretty clear that Acuna learned a lot. The Braves learned a lot from the first time he went through the rehab. He was sore from time to time, and I remember talking this year with Alex Anthopoulos, the Braves general manager, that they really wanted to make sure that he was healthy before he came back. So he's hit the ground running, and man, do the Braves need it, because they had that early season deficit, losing their first 7 games of the year. And as they move forward, they got a long way to go in what's an incredibly competitive National League.
Yeah, the Braves right now find themselves 9.5 games back of the Mets, 3 teams in front of them in that division. Meanwhile, you have Adolis Garcia, Buster, a guy who was an MVP just a couple of seasons ago, but benched again by the Rangers. They're asking him to make some mechanical changes at the plate. Is that a responsible request from the ball club?
Absolutely, because at some point it's a results-oriented business, right? I mean, in the World Series 2 years ago, he was such a great player, and he was such a great hitter. And what we saw last year and what we've seen at the beginning of this year, he's not a close to being that type of player. And we've seen the Rangers have been making changes up and down their lineup. Marcus Semien dropped from the leadoff spot for the first time. Other guys ascending in the lineup. These are desperate times, and it calls for desperate measures, and one of those right now is benching Adolis Garcia.
Finally, Buster, you mentioned the National League East and the race there. There's a few tight division races now. We flipped the calendar to June, 2 full months into the season. Which division race do you find the most intriguing as we head into the heart of the summer?
So because of the Dodgers pitching, I do see them as vulnerable. So the National League West is really intriguing to me. The question is whether or not a team like San Diego has enough depth to actually challenge the Dodgers, knock them off their perch. Will the San Francisco Giants go out before the trade deadline and add a hitter? The Arizona Diamondbacks, maybe at some point the talent on that roster will manifest. Although, certainly a situation this afternoon that we're going to monitor with Corbin Burns seemingly suffering some kind of injury. Man, if they were to lose him, that would be a body blow.
ESPN MLB insider Buster Olney. Appreciate the time as always. I'm Chris Villani. Baseball Tonight here on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. And as Buster mentioned, actually just a few minutes ago, the Diamondbacks wrapped up a 3-1 victory at Chase Field over the Nationals. But the most concerning development and maybe most significant development for Arizona took place during the 5th inning.
Burns to Abrams with 2 outs in the inning and a line drive to right that's going to get down for a hit. Pritchett will field it and get it back in, and Abrams with a 2-out single that gets James Wood to the plate.
Kind of left that one up. And right after he threw that pitch, Corbin looked in the dugout. That's not a good sign.
Nope, that is not a good sign. So something happened out there. Trainer sprints out. Torey Lovullo, the manager, on his way out. And Burns doing all the talking right now.
And Corbin's the one that called him out.
Yeah, he's going to leave. Good boy. Just when you thought it couldn't get worse, it may have.
That from Arizona Sports 98.7 FM. Burns immediately called for the trainer to come out after delivering that pitch, was visibly frustrated on the mound, and according to multiple reports, could be seen saying clearly my elbow after throwing that pitch. Remains to be seen the severity of the injury, but Burns leaves the game in the 5th inning for the Diamondbacks in what was a 3-1 victory for Arizona. Meanwhile, the Giants and the Marlins. Giants in front 1-0 in this game in the top of the 4th inning. 2 on for Luis Matos.
2 on, 2 out here. The pitch. He hits a high drive to left. Stowers back. On the warning track at the wall. It's gone! Matos goes deep. A 3-run homer. Makes it 4-0 here in the 4th inning.
KNBR with the call. 4 runs enough for the Giants as they beat the Marlins. Final score there 4-2. Just moments ago, the Seattle Mariners walk it off a 2-1 victory over the Twins thanks to Randy Arozarena, a base hit in the bottom of the 9th to plate the winning run as Seattle picks up the victory. Mariners and Astros tied in first place in the American League West standings. I'm Chris Villani. Coming up next, how much would a sweep mean for the Dodgers? We explore next on Baseball Tonight. You're listening to Sunday Night Baseball on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
Amber and Ian.
You're talking about
Thank you, and we're back. You know, when it comes to fighting crime, he's never going to roll over. He's McGruff the crime dog.
Roll over. You're okay, Joy.
Thanks.
And I got 2 words to make your neighborhood safer.
Uh-huh.
Coffee cake.
Ah, the old poison coffee cake trick. The cook takes a bite, falls down to the ground.
No, it's for your neighbors.
You want to poison your neighbors?
No, never.
Oh, thank goodness.
No, for 25 years, I've been giving tips about preventing crime. One of them is to invite people over for a cup of coffee and share the problems you see on your street and what to do about them.
That's great.
You can invite your local police officer to help, too.
You know, I hear they're very fond of donuts.
Oh, that's just a myth.
Oh, well, I'd come to your doghouse for coffee cake in a safer neighborhood.
Now you're talking. You can cut down on crime by not just locking your door, but opening up to your neighbors.
Still, a 10-pound bundt cake dropped on a bad guy's foot could help.
It couldn't hurt. And going to weprevent.org for other tips could help, too.
A message from the U.S. Department of Justice, Crime Prevention Coalition of America, National Crime Prevention Council, and the Ad Council.
KNBR 104.5 and 680, the sports leader.
Sunday Night Baseball on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
I'm Chris Villani. Los Angeles Dodgers going for a sweep of the Yankees tonight on Sunday Night Baseball. Dodgers with an 8-5 win on Friday, an 18-2 drubbing last night of the Yanks. And their manager, Dave Roberts, a short time ago spoke with Mike Cousins and Doug Glanville.
Well, Dave, I want to revisit something that we talked to you about back at the end of March when you had your domestic opening day, which is about motivation for players. And you get to about the 3rd point of the season here. That's one of the things behind the scenes that people don't see is how do you keep guys, even the best players, everybody wants to hear that they're doing well throughout the course of the year. How do you keep guys at their best throughout the course of the season?
That's a great question. And I think for each player, there's different motivations. Obviously, I think, starting with Shohei to potentially win his next MVP. Freddie's chasing 3,000. Guys are doing different things. Will Smith is chasing another All-Star, and Kersh is chasing 3,000 strikeouts. And I think that with that being said, right now we're in the midst of this Yankee series, and this is something that has infused a lot of emotion, energy, going back to last year's World Series, and it just brings out the best in our ball club, and it's shown the last couple nights. And I think for me, it's like right in the middle of this season, we're sort of just kind of trying to hold serve. We've been banged up a lot, but our guys are just going out there playing hard and playing to win a game each night, and that's been a lot of fun for me. And as we get back to more health, I can see us really taking off.
I like that you use the word infusion because you've got 2 younger guys, Dalton Rushing and Ha-Seong Kim, who have infused themselves into this lineup playing like they want to stay here. And what advice would you give to somebody in those shoes where you just listed off some of the resumes of guys who are here to try and fit in as one of 26?
I think the thing that I love is God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth. You listen twice as much as you speak, and they've got some great players to emulate and to watch. And so it is nice to give Ha-Seong some runway, and he's really showing out. And Dalton's going to catch tomorrow against the Mets, and so he's getting a little runway and watching all-star catcher each night in Will Smith. And, and Andy Pages is a guy that his second full year, and he looks like a seasoned veteran, driving and runs, taking great at-bats, playing great outfield ball. So that's been a lot of fun. So I think for me is having the veteran core, but also having, as our words were, infused with some young, youthful enthusiasm has been great.
Well, Doc, I'm wondering, with all the years managing the Dodgers, how about the personality of this team? Sort of where do they stack up against all the teams you've seen before?
I think the personality of this team is Freddie Freeman. If I had 2 words to describe it, I think that he posts, he shows up, he's gritty, he's tough. There's accountability, there's no excuses, and he performs regardless. And so I think that for me, to kind of hang our hat on him and his character is sort of, if I had to kind of sum up who we are, that's who we are.
Well, you have Shohei Ohtani starting to get back in pitching, and you talk about challenging everybody and making sure that they have it. Is that sort of his thing that's so important to him to be the complete Shohei Ohtani?
I think so. He's always wanted to do it, always has done it, and I do believe that, being a two-way player for the Dodgers and potentially pitching in the postseason while also taking it back to something he's always dreamed of and will be talked about for years to come. And so he is unique in the sense of being able to handle the rehab, the build-up on the pitching side while still being an elite hitter, one of the game's best. I just don't know anyone that could kind of handle that with all the expectations that come with being Shohei Ohtani. So I'm excited. The buildup is happening. It's sort of every Saturday, which yesterday was 2 innings, and so we'll do another 2 or 3.